Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. I've got Chris Poelma. Help me with it, Chris. Pronunciation on your last name. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, wait. Oh, no, that's that. I have the same problem with Facebook, Jada. So can you hear me, Jada? Chris, can you hear me? I'm thinking no. Oh, I hate it when we have technical problems when we go on the air. Chris can't hear you. Hello. That is still can't hear me. I think it's on your end, Chris. I'll tell you what, I think we are going to stop this, Jada, and restart. Can we restart it? Keep talking. You want me to keep? Okay. So I've got Chris Poelma. We are going to talk about AI and the human connection in senior living. He's with Residex, and he's stepped off, and we're going to see if we can get him back on. Can you hear me now, Chris?
I can hear you fine, Steve. I'm back on.
Fantastic. I'm not that good at doing solo chit chat, so that's really good. I don't know that we've ever had it happen like that quite. So that's you are part of a brand new experience. So anyway, we are going to have a great conversation about technology, senior living, caregivers, giving caregivers time back. But before that, we're this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Chris, welcome to the audience. I'm so sorry. That's what happens when you've got live streams. Sometimes things just don't go the way you expect them to go. I thought I had all my technology stuff lined up. I have been having trouble with my monitor. I couldn't figure out what it was. Thought I was going to have to buy a new one. I just needed to change my plug strip. But we are all good. We are ready to go here now. Chris, let's start by, I want to just start by talking about who you are, what your company does, how you're changing the world for senior living.
Got it. So thank you, Steve. Great to be here. I'm Chris Poelma, CEO of Residex Software. We are long-term care operating system based largely on AI. You can see our website right there. Probably our claim to fame, Steve, is we put time back for those seniors that work in and around long-term care. So it's an opportunity to be able to do more with less work. The software does the work for you, so you can actually spend time with those that need your help. It's that simple.
Okay, I'm going to push on you a little bit. I promised you I was going to do that in advance. Honestly, everybody tells me they're going to push back and they're going to save time for caregivers. They're going to save time for managers. They're going to save time for dining, whatever it is. I'm going to tell you, I'm a skeptic. Talk to me. Prove your point.
Yeah, I love that. So I would tell you before and after across the subsection of over 500 of our care providers, 500 of our customers. We took assessments over a 30-day period of the amount of work that they did in platform pre-AI and post-AI, and we drive an average return across all employees in a long-term care community of 14%. So that's 14% time back with those that need care, and that's across clinicians, skilled, unskilled. It's across medication administration and management. It's against compliance. It's billers that are doing billing and the ability to, rather than chase down invoices and payment and billing, it's time to actually go put back into your day and go do more productive work. So on average, if you're running on Residex.ai, you're going to receive about a 14% day one out of the box, 100% compliant, state and federal compliant. You're also going to receive 14% return And our aim is to grow that well above 25% on an ongoing operating basis. So nice returns. And where and how does that work? And how do
I'm
we
gonna
do it?
hold on. I got to stop you before we get to that detail.
Okay.
What does Residex do?
So lots of things. We automate long-term care for largely seniors, but also special needs facilities. So we manage electronic health records, census data for residents in communities, could be independent living, could be assisted living, could be long-term care, could be CCRC, could be memory care, could be Alzheimer and specialist need, could also be uh, those communities that are providing care for autistic children. And it could be in the home, not just right in a community. And so our software helps nurses, registered nurses, LPNs, and just plain clinicians know the work that they need to do during their day, everyday shift. So if I'm a nurse and I come in and I log into Residex, I'm looking at the day's activities in making my rounds and what needs to be done, what happened before me in the communication, whether medication was provided to a resident in a certain apartment or in a certain room or another location. That's all tracked. If there were family that came to visit them and there were communication and conversation, that can be tracked as well. It's all types of activity in and around assisted living, to be able to provide better care for those people that are in assisted living. So it's electronic health record, it's medication administration, it's staff scheduling. Our AI version, what is Thea, manages a staff schedule. In fact, we've got hospital systems in California, 4,600 active daily users that are being scheduled a week in advance for their 4-hour shifts on the floor in the department that they're supporting. And oh, by the way, if they have to do a call out, our staff scheduling manages that and makes recommendations for the operator that's managing the staff on that floor in the building. So it's quite a powerful platform. It's intended to make life easier for the care providers that are helping seniors and not so senior people who need help in their daily lives.
So one of the terms that you use, and this is for clarification, both for me and for the audience, is you use the term long-term care a couple of times. And
Right.
I think in my mind, and most people who are in the industry, when I think long-term care, I think skilled nursing. So you don't do skilled nursing, is it, or
We
do you?
don't do skilled nursing. It's
Okay, yeah.
unskilled. Yep. Great
Okay.
question.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of how your system works. So today, most senior living communities have some sort of an EHR, electronic health record, EMR platform that they're working with. So if they've already invested in it, they put time and energy and effort. Their team knows that this guy Chris comes along and says, "Man, I built a better mousetrap." Tell me what yours does, how yours works in a way that somebody's going to go through the pain. And there's always real pain to change platforms, right?
Yep.
Well, tell me how yours works to what that looks like. I mean,
Yeah.
you talked about the time savings, but let's go beyond that.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to clarify, while we provide EHR, EMR, and staff scheduling for skilled nursing clinicians, we don't support SNFs or skilled nursing facilities. Difference between the two. So how are we different and what's great about our platform? So the origin of the platform, now 26 years, 3 iterations later, our 3rd iteration is an AI-based platform called Thea, originated and to this day is built from nurses and clinicians who have been in long-term care. They're registered nurses, they're LPNs, they're clinicians who actually came from within the industry. In fact, 31% of our employees are trained nursing and nurse staff and clinicians and administrators and executive operators, care providers, kitchen help, you name it, from the communities that we support today, they're actually part of our staff, and their expertise went into our product engineering team to be able to develop software that is intuitive to use, not painful. So the number one feedback that we get is that your software is so easy to use and understand. It's a day in the life. And so we differentiate built by and provided by nurses just like you, and clinicians and care staff just like you, because they're employees of Residex. 31% of our staff, and we have a hard deck, 25% will retain, and we're going to maintain indefinitely, that actually originate from within the industry. So you don't have software engineers building stuff that they don't know what they're building. And so the end result is, when you log into your software, into the Residex platform, it's making recommendations based off of activities that have happened earlier in earlier shifts throughout the day to take care and help residents. And so it's intuitive in that way. It's not a fight. It's not, you don't have to click around in the software endlessly and wonder what the outcome is. Reports are generated for you, data is generated for you. It's really simple to use and intuitive. In fact, I would tell you, we keep track of a little metric in our software that determines if customers would refer it to another customer. Technically, in the industry, it's called a net promoter score.
Yeah.
And a good score is in the 30s. A great score is in the 40s. I looked before I came on, we're an NPS 71, Steve.
Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So intuitive.
Good. So one of as you know, probably operationally, one of the biggest challenges the industry continues to face. We're actually doing a workforce survey right now as part of, as part of our relationship, our being owned by ProCare with CEOs right now, and the data is already confirming that this is true. That staffing, recruiting staffing, turning over staffing is a huge deal. And so this claim of clawing time back would seem to suggest that it would help with that. Do you have any data on staff retention and how it impacts retaining staff and recruiting staff?
Yeah, great question. I would say that absolutely. What I'll use anecdotally, and then I'll go to some hard data in a moment, but anecdotally, some of our largest customers that have been using our platform for an extended period of 3+ years, 4+ years, their retention rates are half what they are other communities who either aren't on our platform or are trying to move to our platform, primarily due to compliance and also administration of the day's activities for the residents that they're taking, that they're taking care of, that they're helping, rather than it being a fight and a challenge. Now, some specifics. I will tell you, compared to the top 20 customers that we're supporting with multiple communities, multiple types of care, from low acuity to very high acuity needs, specialized even into hospice, the long-term retention is about 23% greater post-Residex than pre-Residex, is what I would tell you. And that's across a span of 20 of our largest providers that have been on the platform 3 years or greater. The retention is higher. And what they would tell us and what they do in their surveys when they respond to us is, to them, it seems like it was built by them. It's so easy to understand and get around. You don't have to be a technical genius to figure out how the software works. It's pretty intuitive in a way that they would want it to be, is the feedback.
Yeah, so this is actually a really important conversation, I think, because there are certain things that every caregiver does that they for the most part they like, getting in and having conversations with residents, conversations with family, perhaps even, having clinical discussions. How do you solve problems? I mean, that's really, really interesting stuff. I don't know that I've ever met a clinician or a dining service, or really anybody in the building who said, "Oh man, I am excited! I get to go do my documentation now."
Yeah.
So I want to talk. I want you to go a little deeper into how do you make this whole have to do documentation thing easier to do.
Ooh, really smart. So via tablets, when they're out on the floor that is connected to, and they can isolate specific to our application, right? So that they can control the security and access and limit it to the application. As they're actually looking at vitals or checking vitals and they're entering the data, they enter at one time, then have to enter it again. And based off of maybe yesterday's vitals and the day before vitals, it might actually make recommendations of slight care adjustments. They don't have to go back to a desktop, open something else up, or run a report that tells them how they might adjust for the day. And
Okay.
so in this way, right on a tablet, as they're taking care of George, and George needs a specific type of care, maybe it's he needs some type of special therapy. He unfortunately had a fall a couple of weeks ago, and there might be some updates tied to the vitals that were actually captured. We provide information on the fly tied to the tablet about care that's being provided, rather than having to go back to a set of maybe fixed reports or a set of screens that are on a desktop. And it's super convenient. It's like the caregiver is empowered to take care of George rather than running back and forth constantly between it and a desktop computer. That's one example. Another example, if you've got a set of medications, the average, hard to fathom this was true, the average resident takes 10.1 medications per day. That's a lot. And you can imagine medications change all the time. Well, if you've got a med conflict, we raise alerts based off of known med conflicts. And oh, by the way, there's more information than just a general alert. Hey, these two medications that are mixed together, taken in this way, administered in this way, might create this type of reaction. While that's true and they can drill into it, it actually color codes and gives some leveling tied to the alert. It's really intuitive. It's right on the tablet, and it helps them in managing this. Manage this right as they're next to George, bedside.
I want to put that back up for just a second, Jada. Mostly because it made me smile. Pretty good with you. Yeah, I keep waiting to meet somebody who, I'm sure there's somebody out there who says my favorite part is documentation, who actually loves that stuff.
No.
But mostly, particularly with life enrichment, right? Your most fun, your best stuff is getting out there and hanging out with residents. So I absolutely love that. So I'm going to sort of take a little bit of a pause twist here for just a second. One of the things I always like to ask my guests, and it could be directly related to Residex or maybe even something in a prior life. We all love successes. I love successes, but we also know that we learn a lot more from our failures than we do from our successes. So I'm wondering if you might have a failure story you could tell us that we could learn lessons from, so that we don't have to experience the same failure.
How much time do you have, Steve?
I just want one. That's all. I just want.
Okay.
I know I could probably do a 24 hours straight. Maybe that's what I should do next time I've got a problem, Jade, is I'll just tell failure stories, or maybe you could tell us failure stories about me. So
here's one for you. In fact, I'll tie it to documentation. The quote that just came up here on paper and documentation. Early in my career, I actually started my career out in software engineering and happened to be in healthcare. I was doing claims processing for a couple of Title 19 states claims processing. I was, again, earlier in my career and trying to figure out who would use these reports, the purpose of the reports. But before I could get there and actually be in front of customers, I had developed, true story, this actually happened to be for the state of Maryland. I had developed some reports and also the state of Hawaii. So I actually got the good news is I got to make a few trips to Hawaii specifically for State of Hawaii Health and Human Services for Title 19 account. Long story short, so I'm in front of a state inspector in Maryland, and I'm showing him the reports. And here you go. You've got a geek that actually developed some reports that I thought would be helpful and beneficial. I didn't start with the expert in the room. No, I just made a whole slew of assumptions. And so I don't know, probably the 300 hours that I had spent building what I thought would be the ideal set of paper reports, that same quote that came up that says, "Oh yeah, I want to spend my life running reports." I would tell you, after I was embarrassed and humbled in a very public way to where there were probably 20 other people around the conference room, I was berated for creating what I thought was the most informative set of reports, when the real answer is it isn't the data, it's the outcome that matters. And it was a humbling experience for me. And I would tell you, the ability to provide the information right there and then on the spot, tied to the iPad and the tablet, is much more intuitive than anything you have to print off or you have to go pull off, or nobody wants to go do that. And so, not that those reports were in advance of me, so I give the team credit. I don't get to take credit for that. I'm just saying that's a life's lesson
Yeah.
for me of, saving time. Here's note to self: include the expert in the field up front.
Yeah, I
That's
think
the
that one of the, when I look back, I'm an old guy, and when I look back, my single biggest piece of advice to young up and coming leaders is to not be afraid to say, I don't know. Tell
right.
me what I need to know. It was a big mistake for me. As you were telling your story, I'm thinking, man, this is a big one. I really appreciate you willing to be vulnerable and sharing it, and that I did a keynote. I mean, it wasn't actually, it was a breakout, but it was a big crowd. It was about 300 people in my audience, where I managed to actually make about 70% of the audience just furious with me because it was too brutal and straightforward. It was one of the worst experiences. I was thinking it was probably a light like your experience of going into that but I had people yelling at me from the audience. So it was,
Wow.
yeah. So anyway, I want to, as my audience knows, I have a 93-year-old stepfather who lives in assisted living, and he's got dementia. He knows I'm somebody important in his life. I just found out that he thinks I'm somebody he went to school with rather than his stepson, which is fine. I mean, I think there'll be a day when I show up and he won't know who I am at all. But as his dementia has increased, he uses a walker, but he's had some falls, and never been particularly hurt, but he's had some falls. And my question is how does this software, how does your tool make his life better? Meaning broadly, residents' lives better, which means that it makes families' lives better. And when families are happy, then the community is successful and everybody's happy.
Yeah, great question. The first is we capture all the care data for the resident and the resident census. You would be shocked at the amount and to the extent. And you might say, well, how do you do this for fall prevention? In that case, explicitly, we have two partners that have a physical device. One of them is actually a mobile device, and they carry that in their hand, and then also a second walk, and it measures their gait in their pocket, and it actually can do gait analysis to determine. And if you do it literally, you're walking just 7 or 8 steps, and you do this over the course of a week, it captures trend analysis, and it will provide fall prediction and analysis data. Now, if you capture that on a health record and you do that on a scheduled basis so that you can determine over time how your, basically how your father can and is managing any physical therapy that he might be in the middle of, whether it's improving or not improving. Here's another one. It's a biggie. Medications. He's taken a new medication and he looks to be not as stable, and it's affecting him, especially right after or half an hour after the medication. This data provides prediction analysis for fall in determining, how sure-footed they are before it occurs. And it's data that's real-time, and analysis can actually provide insights. Now, the physical device is through a third-party partner that we're integrated with. We also have a second partner. I mentioned there were a couple. We have a second partner that actually has devices that capture latitude and longitude tied to an identity bracelet, and then I think it's a pocket tab that they put in their pocket like an AirTag that measures the height, the altitude, and the latitude, right? Vertical and the height and the distance as they're walking around within their room or through the halls. And it's constant measurement as opposed to an analysis that you might do 8 steps or 10 steps. It is constant analysis, and that type of data and information not only provides preventative care, preventative fall information, it also provides urinary tract infection. It provides data on how well their nutrition and nutritional level, and can provide and does inform care analysis and care recommendations into what is the daily charting and the day activities, what we call our tasks inside of Residex. And so we capture a lot of this data through physical devices that provide care recommendations and preventative analysis before they have a fall, before they have a UTI, before they have a healthcare condition, so that you can be proactive rather than reactive and actually improve. And this is passion for me, actually improve the outcome and the healthcare of those residents that are in your community or that you're taking care of in their home.
That's terrific. So I want to talk. We've got just a couple minutes left, but I want to talk a little bit about ownership and money and VC and private equity and those kinds of things.
Sure.
We know it's a reality. We've seen. I could list you probably without even thinking a dozen companies that were little startups in the senior living industry. Got big enough to be purchased by some sort of institutional equity, and they don't exist anymore. And so you have big investors now. You have private equity as opposed to venture capital. I'd have you talk a little bit about that. And I want to say in transparency that Foresight is now owned by ProCare, which has venture capital money that has been really, really good for us, and it's been really good for ProCare. So this is not a condemnation. I think there can be good and bad capital in lots of different circumstances.
Absolutely agree. And what I've just for the viewing audience, the earlier stage, the higher risk, the higher reward and outcome for the investor. So if you're part of an incubator, if you're part of friends and family, then you move to venture capital. Then eventually at some point, maybe you pass venture capital, you move into private equity. Then maybe you move from private equity into what is called mezzanine funding. And then eventually, maybe even a public offering if you choose, or you can stay private equity. And so there are different stages of financial capital that you can put to work. They're all necessary. I would say I've lived in 5 countries around the globe, have lived many different geographies and locations. One of the benefits of being in this country is the right and title to start a company and bring an idea to market. Yep. We are the best on the planet at that, bar none. I'm really passionate about that. And so I think investing in earlier stage business, the earlier stage it is, the riskier it likely is. You might have heard words, Steve's, like pre-revenue. That's a fancy term for meaning, hey, I've built or am building this cool gadget, this product, but I haven't sold it to any customers, or I've given it to them and I'm not making any money, right? Yeah. All the way to, we have a product out in market, which this is venture capitalists are renowned for this, right? They provide a lot of venture-based capital from limited partners, investors that take high risk, and they're taking high portions of the value of the business because they're taking so much risk. Generally, those companies are not usually profitable. They're more focused on adoption in market. They're more focused on taking risks and bringing new products into the market that do innovative things, which we need lots of companies like that. And then, like us, Residex, we are backed by what is private equity, and largely, majority of the time, those investors run profitable businesses. They are upstanding long term. When I say upstanding, I mean they generally, that company and that business will be around for years and decades to come. It's a stable, healthy, growing, usually growing business. And so there's kind of a difference between your venture capital and private equity. Venture capital graduates into private equity eventually.
Perfect. That is great. Chris, thank you so much for spending time with me. We got about, we're a little past time, but I want to give you about 45 seconds to sort of give your elevator pitch for Residex AI. And I appreciate you joining me.
Awesome. Come visit us on residex.ai or give me a shout out or my team a shout out, and we'll set you up with a demonstration on our platform to see the value that true AI, not bolted on, it's embedded within the software, can do for you. It truly is a time saving. You don't have to go print fixed reports. You can actually use it right on a tablet. It will save you oodles of time, compliant right out of the box.
Chris, thank you very much. Jada, thank you for producing in the background. And we will be back on Friday with a very interesting show. And I look forward to seeing you then.
Steve, thank you.
You bet.